want to talk, and I've been doing a number of videos on this, on the precision of the Bible and why we can have absolute confidence in it. Jesus said, there's nothing hidden that won't be revealed. I think we're living in the age now of that revealing. We're finding out that the world, as we thought it was, is not the world as it is. There are forces and powers behind the scenes that are orchestrating events and have been for a long time, generations at least. And right on the heels of all this revealing, I believe there's also going to be an era of deception. So on the one hand, we're seeing the truth of how things work behind the scenes, and that on the other hand, more deception is going to be raised up to confuse us and draw us off stride, particularly Christians. Jesus said that there will be an age of deceit. The Bible talks about the church age, the end times, as being the age of apostasy, where people fall away from the truth. And I'm seeing things online now that are challenging standard Christian doctrine and standard Christian beliefs. People are throwing out other gospels, the gospel of Mary Magdalene, the gospel of Thomas. They're presenting Jesus as being something other than the only pathway and reconciliation to God. They're presenting him as a spiritual entity that we can kind of emulate and grow into on our own, and just a lot of confusing things out there. It's important to be anchored and confident in what we believe. And one of the primary ways to build that faith and confidence is to dig in and understand the absolute precision and control that God has over events and over his plan of salvation. The Old Testament is pointing exclusively at Jesus Christ. And this was orchestrated from the beginning. Back in the Garden of Eden, after Adam and Eve sinned, we had the first prophecy of a Messiah. God told the serpent who deceived Eve, I will put enmity between you and the woman, between your seed and her seed. You'll bruise his heel, but he'll crush your head. That's universally understood to be a prophecy of the coming Messiah. And I want to dig into one aspect of this. And what I want to take a look at is the genealogy and bloodline of Jesus Christ. An angel appeared to the Virgin Mary. It's recorded in Luke, I think, chapter 1. And he said, you're going to have a child. He's going to be called the Son of God. And basically, he's going to be the Messiah. And Mary said, I'm a virgin. How can that be? And he said, the Holy Ghost, God himself, is going to come upon you and impregnate you, which tells us why he is the Son of God. The other side of that coin is Jesus consistently referred to himself as the Son of Man, human. So we have this concept of God incarnate, God made flesh, Jesus Christ, fully human, and also fully God. I want to dig into that a little bit and demonstrate biblically just how God orchestrated all of this. I'm in Luke chapter 2, verse 4. Caesar Augustus, the ruler at that time, ordered all the Jews to report to their ancestral hometown to be registered for a census so that they could be taxed. Okay, so here we are, Luke 2:4. And because Joseph, this would be the fiance of Mary, because Joseph was a descendant of King David, he had to go to Bethlehem in Judea, David's ancient home. He traveled there from the village of Nazareth in Galilee. That's pretty clear cut, right? He was a descendant of David, so he had to go back to David's ancestral home to register. But not so fast. That's how the New Living Translation renders this passage. The New Living Translation is a paraphrase. It's trying to put the direct text out of the Hebrew and Greek and so forth into understandable language so that it's easy for us to understand, but it's not very precise. And in its lack of precision, we lose much of what God is trying to demonstrate to us. Here's the English Standard Version of it, which is a direct translation. It says, "And Joseph also went up from Galilee, from the town of Nazareth to the Judea, the city of David, which is called Bethlehem, because he was of the house and lineage of David." That sounds like it's saying pretty much the same thing, but it's not. And the reason it's not is because there's a distinction between the house and the lineage. And that distinction plays out in the sense that I can have a legal claim within a household, but that doesn't make me part of the bloodline. On the other hand, I can be a descendant of somebody in their bloodline, but yet not have a legal claim to their estate if they die or anything like that. So there's this distinction that acts like it shouldn't be a big deal, except that it is. Back in David's time, God ordained for David his descendants to sit on the throne of Judah forever. He would have a permanent throne. This is called the Davidic covenant. It's an unconditional covenant, meaning David didn't have to agree to it or do anything. God declared it. When God declares an unconditional covenant, it's grounded in his integrity, meaning it's going to happen unless he breaks faith with his own character. And that's not going to happen. This is what he said back in 2 Samuel chapter 7. "The Lord declares to you that the Lord himself will establish a house for you. When your days are over and you rest with your ancestors, I'll raise up your offspring to succeed you, your own flesh and blood. I'll establish his kingdom, the one who'll build a house for my name, and I will establish the throne of his kingdom forever." What he's forecasting here is that there will be a throne of Judah, and it's going to be occupied by a permanent bloodline descendant of David. So here's the problem. God established this covenant with David and said, this is going to happen. Your descendant is going to sit on the throne. So David dies. Solomon took over. And then after Solomon, the kingdom of Israel split into two kingdoms. The northern 10 tribes called Israel, also called after one of the tribes, Ephraim, and then the southern 2 tribes of Judah and Benjamin, which were commonly called Judah. A couple generations after that, there arose on the throne in David's bloodline a king named Jeconiah. This king was so evil that God cursed his bloodline. He said, we're done here. None of your descendants are going to sit on the throne of Israel again. We're done. So how does this work when God establishes a covenant to David and said, this is going to happen. Your descendant, your blood descendant's going to sit on the throne forever. And then he turns around a few generations and curses that very bloodline. This is the part where I think we have to really pay attention. I want to refer us, without reading it, I'm going to just explain what happened. In Matthew chapter 1, we have a listing of the genealogy of Jesus Christ, the bloodline listing, and it descends from David to Solomon and down from Solomon all the way to Joseph, Mary's husband. Joseph was the adoptive father, if you will, of Jesus. And Mary would have been his mother by the Holy Spirit. The problem is that Joseph had no blood claim, or no blood, his line had no eligibility, bloodline eligibility to sit on the throne. So his adopting Jesus and taking him into his household as son did not satisfy Jesus' bloodline being on the claim, on the throne. He did, however, have a legal eligibility. In other words, Joseph was still legally eligible to sit on the throne of Israel, had that been arranged. But his bloodline was cursed, so he couldn't. Here's the other side of the coin. If we go to, I believe it's Luke 3, we can read the genealogy of Jesus from David to Mary. And what happened was God bypassed Solomon's bloodline through Jeconiah, who was cursed, and he bypassed it in Mary's genealogy because she was descended not from David's son Solomon, but from David's son Nathan. So it maintains the bloodline of David coming all the way down to Mary, who was the mother of Jesus. And that's how Jesus had his human bloodline preserved from David. Here's the problem. Women had no legal rights. This was a patriarchal society. Everything was owned and descended through the male line. So we have a situation in which Joseph, as the adoptive father of Jesus, would have had legal eligibility for Jesus to ultimately be on the throne of Israel. But the bloodline was cursed. Mary had the bloodline of Jesus descending through her. So that bloodline, as Jesus' mother, he would have been eligible in the lineage to sit on the throne, but women had no legal claim. So God worked this out. If we go back to Numbers, and I want to say Numbers 36, there was a guy in the Old Testament. God was setting all this up. We're back in the desert after they came out of Egypt, and he was setting up, all the lineages and the rights of inheritance and so forth. And he set it up so that this all descended from male to male. Problem was, there was a guy who said, I don't have any sons. I've only got daughters. What do I do? Do we lose our inheritance? So God made an exception. And the exception was, if a man has only daughters and no sons, she can inherit. She has legal rights and can maintain both the bloodline and the legal rights claims. In other words, she's given legal status if she marries within the tribe, which is why we have Mary and Joseph are both in the tribe of Judah. This sounds convoluted, and it is, because God precisely worked this out. He anticipated it. And I'm sure that when God established a covenant with David and promised him a descendant on the throne forever, and then generations later, he cursed that very bloodline, I'm guessing Satan was sitting on the sidelines cheering because he thought God broke his word. But God had this all orchestrated. He bypassed that bloodline by bringing the bloodline through Solomon's brother Nathan down to Mary, and then establishing a mechanism for her to not only have a bloodline claim to the throne, but to have legal eligibility for it too, as long as she married within the tribe. You can read that in, I want to say Numbers 36, where he established that. So that's the story of Jesus' bloodline. And I bring this up, and I wanted to talk about it because it demonstrates a precision of God's plan and of his sovereignty. And you can't make this stuff up. Our Bible was written over many generations, and it was all pointing at Jesus Christ as our reconciliation to God. And so, as all this evil in our world is being revealed, and as all these spirits of confusion are going to be brought forth, we just have to look to our Bible and to the person of Jesus Christ and cling to that and understand that God has this all worked out. We have the Bible, we have his word, and we have the person of Jesus Christ. So thanks for watching.